When adding integers, for example, if we're adding -3 plus a -2, okay, we're adding a negative and a negative over here. So we're starting with -3. Where would I start on the number line? Yep. Yes, -3. But I'm adding a negative. I'm adding in a negative. So what happens? Is the number going to get larger or smaller if I'm adding in a negative? It gets smaller. So which way would I move on the number line? Left or right? Who says I move to the right? Left. Good. How many spaces? Yep. 2. I'm adding in -2. So where do we end up? -5. Okay, does everyone see that? If I have 5 and I'm going to add a -6. Okay, I start with +5. So where do I start on the number line? To the right of 0, right here. But I'm adding a -6. What happens? How do I move? Yep. To the left, how many spaces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we end up at -1. So here we start at -4. But now the number that we're adding is a +6, right? Okay, there's no sign there, so we know it's +6. If I'm adding 6, which way do I move? To the right. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we end up at +2. Yes. When you are, okay, when you're subtracting a negative, what happens? So we have 2 subtract a negative. Eyes over here. What happens when you're taking away a negative? So let's look at this for a sec. Where do I start? Where am I starting? We start at +2, but we're subtracting a negative, so what happens? It becomes addition. When you subtract a negative, you end up adding to it. So 2 plus 7, so we're increasing by 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the answer is 9. Good. If we have -2, and we are subtracting -2. Let's try this one. -2, take away -2. So I start at -2, and what happens when we're taking away a negative? Yes? Yep, it becomes plus. We're adding 2. Think about it. We're starting with -2, and we're taking away that -2. What are we left with? 0, right? You have -2, and you're taking away that -2. What if it looks like this? One more. -2, take away 2. Think about this. -2, subtract 2. 2, take away 2. Is that 2 positive or negative? Positive. I'm taking away 2. So look here. We start at -2, but I'm taking away. Which way do I move? Left or right? Left. I'm taking away 2. So we would end up at -4. When you take away a negative, we move to the right because it's increasing. When we take away a positive, we move to the left because it's decreasing. Now we're going to look at the rules for multiplying and dividing integers. Whenever you multiply 2 negatives, what will the result be? A negative times a negative is good. What about if I have a positive times a positive? Good. And what if we have a negative times a positive? And what if I have a positive times a negative? Yep. Negative. Good. If you notice here, whenever the 2 signs are the same, for example, I have 2 negatives or 2 positives. So when both signs are the same, your answer will always be positive. when both signs are different, so either a positive and negative or a negative and a positive, what happens to the answer? When both signs are different, what's the result? When both signs are different. Good. Negative. What is negative 6 times positive 2? A negative and a positive results in a negative. 6 times 2? Good. What about if I have positive 2 times negative 6? Is the answer different? So does the order matter when you're multiplying? What if I do this? Negative 2 times positive 6. What's the result? Yes? Negative 12. Excellent. Okay, what about positive 6 times negative 2? I just rewrote the same question 4 different times. What's the answer? Negative 12. Good. I can also write this question like this. Is this different? Does that represent the same thing?
Yeah.
What about this? What if I only put one bracket? Still the same thing. You might see this on your quiz tomorrow with just a number and a bracket, right? What about this? Still the same thing. Good. What's another way that I can represent this question here? Negative 35 over 7 can also be represented as, yep,
Positive 35.
divided by negative 7. Good. And any other way that I can represent this? Using a different symbol. You can also do this, negative 35 divided by 7. Do I have to put a positive symbol there? No. Or one more way. Yep.
Put in brackets.
Yes, I could put this in brackets, or we can make this positive and put that in brackets. Good. What's the answer to all of these? Positive or negative? Negative 5. Good. All of them show a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative and a positive and a negative. The answer will be negative.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.